It's funny, I almost swing backwards and forwards with my thoughts on AI. I guess one of the thoughts that hasn't swung is that there's going to be pretty tremendous job disruption. I would have logically believed it from reasoning up from, okay, intelligence increases. What is intelligence? And once intelligence is in the form of these agents, where on my phone right now, I can tell my agent to do something. It uses the computer downstairs. It does it for me. When I first experienced that, I was like, wow. Okay, so it can do anything that's on a computer. It can click around. It can do stuff for me. There's a lot of people that are paid in the world to click around on a computer. I'm probably one of them, to be honest. And then the other eureka moment was just in seeing how my own hiring had started to shift.
For sure.
And I started to notice that we were thinking about AI proficiency in our hiring a lot more. And that especially, I think the guys at Anthropic, which is one of the big AI companies, said that they could see, I think they said roughly 15% of entry-level jobs could now be done by AI. I think that's what they said. And that started to correlate with what I was observing. And this is when I thought, oh my gosh, yes, no, this is going to cause a lot of job disruption, especially at the entry level.
I think you're spot on with that. Not the blue collar, but the entry level knowledge work.
Yeah, and that became my first concern. I sat here with Dara, the CEO of Uber, and he was quite clear that the 9 million Uber riders won't have their jobs anymore. What's your take on this job disruption point?
No, I think you're spot on. I mean, your team gave me this lovely little pyramid, basically. If you think of the bottom layer as blue collar jobs, right? More people doing manual work. On top of it, you'll have those, call them knowledge workers, mostly doing mundane jobs, like you said, clicking on a computer or responding to a phone call or whatever. Then you have the middle knowledge workers, jobs that require a bit more intelligence, anything from a paralegal to a financial analyst to all of that. And then, of course, top leadership. And most people think it's going to be starting from the bottom. I don't think it will start from the bottom. Actually, I think blue-collar jobs will stay for a very long time.
Give me an example of a blue-collar job for someone that's
a carpenter. Okay. I love to restore classic cars. So, there isn't a robot that can do that yet. Okay. This, however, anything that is call center agent, assistant, travel agent, anything that you can do with a few clicks and is mundane, is going to disappear very quickly. My prediction is you're going to start to see very serious impact in 2027. Now, what you had not sensed it before, because what we saw was no hiring in that segment. So that what you saw in the last couple of years is that companies were not hiring entry-level jobs anymore. It wasn't job losses yet, but that basically meant the workforce was not growing, right? The next layer, I think, would probably be the knowledge workers. As intelligence increases, a paralegal would probably not be needed because AI can do the research, or one paralegal can do the job of 4, a financial analyst the same, and so on and so forth. But interestingly, it continues to go up, believe it or not. And I hosted Max Tedmark on my documentary, and he was laughing out loud, genuinely laughing out loud, saying, most of the CEOs believe that they can fire everyone and have AI do all of the jobs. They just don't remember that AGI is going to do everything better than humans eventually, including being a CEO.
So let's first define, when you say white collar, you said lawyers there. What kind of roles is that?
Everything. I mean, if you're a doctor that's doing diagnosis, you probably will have fewer doctors doing more diagnosis, because I think the NHS does that already by asking people to interact with an AI first. If you're a composer, a music composer, some composers will lose their jobs because of that. If you're an artist that's doing graphic design, some will lose their jobs because AI comes into that. And interestingly, even middle management. I mean, I told you offline about my startup. My CTO is an AI. My chief of staff is an AI. My project management is AIs. Again, because I'm a geek, I can do those things, but that interface will come to the normal people very soon, right? And so this may take 2 to 3, 5 years if you want, until 2030 if you're optimistic, and but they'll start to erode. Okay, I think the challenge that most people don't understand is as this erodes and as this erodes, we're already dealing with a very different economy. Okay, an economy that is spiraling a lot quicker and pushing for more cost reductions. I mean, let me ask you this, if you don't mind, then we can come back to this. Imagine a world where the concept of labor arbitrage that built all of our capitalist success disappears.
What do you mean by labor arbitrage?
So capitalism has always been all about using labor and capital or debt to create things at a cost that is lower than the price you sell them for. Correct? That's it. You bring a team together, they make some shoes, whatever, and you sell the shoes for $1 more than how much it costs you to make them. So how would capitalism look like if you don't have labor arbitrage? If cost of labor drops to an investment in a machine that can do the job? Okay, how would capitalism and banking look if, because of that cost reduction, you don't need to borrow as much anymore? And more interestingly, how does the GDP look if all of those workers no longer have the purchasing power to buy the things that you can create, you and others, right? There is an interesting disruption that doesn't require us to get to 100% job displacement. You know, at 10, 20% job displacement, you're in a very different economy, and an economy that is clearly spiraling downwards, don't you think?
Yeah, I wonder with when costs drop, I think one of the things that might happen as well is that people will spend more on other things. Because I was thinking in my business, one of the observations I've had is if I make a cost saving, I end up spending the money on something else. Now that thing could be tokens, basically spending money on
Compute,
AI. But it also could be hiring in different areas.
Which are?
Software engineers are like hot property right now.
You have to imagine all of that intelligence is sooner or later going to be not replaced entirely in the first stages, but if, you know, the job of 4 assistants can be done by one, then the job of 4 paralegals can be done by one, then the job of a massive marketing team can be done by, you know, a smaller marketing team. It's not that jobs will end first. It's that, you know, productivity gains will make businesses not want to have as many people, costly humans, you know, costly emotional humans, when the job can be predictably done for cheaper.
And then what about this this bottom layer here? There was this video released by Figure AI the other day where they showed someone on a robot on the production line for 8 hours just sorting packages. Yeah. Did you see this video? At one point they showed a human sorting the packages alongside them, but the robot ended up winning out. And okay, this is a very straightforward task. All it's doing here is it's looking for where the label is on the package and making sure the label is facing downwards on all the packages. So it's looking, it's sorting the packages, putting the label facing down, and it did this for 8 days.
Yeah.
Intermittently, it would walk over and charge itself, and then it would come back to the production line. Yeah. But when I saw this as well, it was a glimpse of some of the disruption that's going to take place at the blue collar level as well. Because if you think about Elon Musk, he's got in his pay packet, he gets something like $1 trillion over the coming years if he produces and delivers at least 1 million humanoid robots into the world. But his prediction is there will be a time where there are 10 billion humanoid robots, where there are more humanoid robots in the world than humans.
For a fact. You see, the interesting, again, the difference between the overhype and the underhype. Huh? Most of the conversation is around humanoids. Nobody's talking about self-driving cars. And a self-driving car is a robot. It's a functional robot that doesn't look like humans. Okay? The investment you have to put into humanoids is a little more to learn skills that allows that machine to fit into the world. But specialized robots are going to do the job very, very quickly. And so you can easily see that the first wave, like you had the conversation with Uber CEO, is going to be specialized robots replacing drivers. It's going to be specialized robots, unfortunately, doing the killing. It's going to be specialized robots, unfortunately, doing all of the, you know, intelligence work, law enforcement work. They don't have to look like a human. They don't have to behave like a human. As a matter of fact, the Boston Dynamics dog is probably more efficient than a humanoid at doing the job that you can assign to it in a battlefield, right? Now, those basically mean that jobs will be disappearing to robots before we recognize that they're disappearing to robots. And those robots will be as many as every car being made today.
I mean, they are. If you go to LA, my car drives itself, but also there's just Waymos everywhere. So
absolutely. Yeah. And BYD the other day just announced that they will pay for the liability of any accident their cars will make.
And BYD is the big Chinese manufacturer of autonomous vehicles.
So this I think replacement cycle will happen. It will require a lot of time to achieve economies of scale, but I don't think Elon Musk is off the mark when he talks about 10 billion robots. Not all of them are going to look like humanoids. And I think very quickly we will recognize that many robots don't need to be humanoids at all, that there is a much more efficient form factor or shape, physical shape, if you want, than the human flimsy structure. But yes, it's about to happen. I think I should qualify all of this by saying it does not necessarily need to happen. So people will hear all of this and blame AI and say AI is evil. AI is not. Abundant intelligence is wonderful. Having jobs done by machines is amazing for us.
I'm thinking about the kid that's like, leaving university now, and they've got a degree in law, or I don't know, you talked about a few other white collar jobs earlier, like graphic design, or maybe they did sociology.
Yeah.
Or maybe they did, I don't know, business management, like I did for one day in university. You're hearing about all these like layoffs coming from big tech companies, and it seems that the CEOs of these companies are announcing these layoffs with a certain amount of, it seems like, I wouldn't say the word is joy, but it's they are very keen to explain that they're laying off lots of people because of AI. And I think they think that gives them a certain amount of respect, probably from investors, for making hard decisions and being efficient with how they're running their businesses. Investors look at them and think, well, if that's an efficient business and they're leaning into AI, then that's a good investment. It's almost started a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, where if you're the only CEO not laying off loads of people because of AI, you actually look bad. The assumption is your company is bloated and you're a bad operator. So one of my concerns that I think is highly plausible is that over the next 5, maybe 10 years, we're going to really see a lot of unemployment as the world has to kind of readjust to whatever these new jobs are. I do think there will be new jobs. It's hard in foresight to predict what those new jobs will look like. And then the minute you start talking about humanoid robots and robotics, which I think is basically going to hit society like a comet, like a meteor. I think the first humanoid robot from Tesla or anyone else that is highly effective in the real world at doing tasks and is extremely intelligent because it's powered by one of these LLMs, I think it's going to shock people. And I think it's going to happen quickly. Like ChatGPT happened quickly.
100%.
I think Elon or something is going to do a presentation someday and say, we're ready.
100%.
And you can buy one now for $500 a month.
100%.
And then people are going to get them, and I think it's going to shock the world. But until humanoid robots arrive, I think there's still going to be a lot of job disruption to the white-collar layer. And I wonder what that looks like for society when we get to, 10%, 15% unemployment, theoretically, which I think is plausible.
Very soon, yeah. You're not very different, okay? You're just on top of a baseline that is continuing to grow. So your business is growing, so you continue to hire, but you are replacing human resources with compute. Okay? If AI didn't exist, you would have probably had 100 people more in your organization today, right? You now have 100 people less and 1 billion tokens more.
Yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know, tokens are basically the thing that you use. It's the currency of AI.
Yeah. So if you want to get a task done by a human, you count in sort of like man hour or worker hour, employee hour. In AI, you count by compute. You count by tokens, right? And so the trick is those major tech companies, they have two sides. One is they need to replace workers with compute even more because there is a competitive side on compute where if any of them is left behind, that means the destruction of the entire business. But on the upside, they are geeks. So they know how to build the interfaces to compute. So they integrate technology within their organizations quicker than the average traditional business, right? Non-technology business, if you want. You can look at them and say, this is the preview. It's not about all of humanity losing their jobs. It's about what is the dividing line before civil war, right? Think about a situation where 20% unemployment is happening when economies are suffering inflation. I say that not to be a scaremonger. I say that because I genuinely believe governments need to wake up. Okay, government needs to at least, remember the COVID years where governments had to give furlough everywhere and ask people to stay home. If people stay home, governments have to be prepared to somehow sustain those people until reskilling happens or until we find a solution, so that those people don't feel that they're left behind.
A civil war.
Unrest, let's call it.
Civil unrest.
Yeah.
What does that end up looking like? Because on one end, the democratic process plays its role and we just elect someone else.
Does it really? Don't say that.
I don't know. You tell me.
Oh, no. I think democracy has ended a long time ago, Stephen. I think we live in the most corrupt time. I don't know about history, to be honest, but this is definitely corrupt. Okay? This definitely is not democracy. This definitely is not even congressional in any possible way. And people are angry. People are angry because their tax money is going to things that they don't choose to, that don't benefit them, that, lots of regulations in the system are being ignored. I mean, I choose not to speak about politics perhaps until my next book comes out, but look, we have video evidence of people abusing children and not a single person got arrested. Not a single person. I mean, how can you call that a democracy? I think repeating those slogans is gonna anger people even more, if you ask me. People know that they're being lied to. People know that their leaders are not representing their best interest. People know that their money is going to causes that they don't really approve of. And ask me how civil unrest looks like. I don't know, and I'm not calling for it, but I'm hopefully calling for the politicians to start to become aware that this is crossing the lines everywhere.
On this point, Sam Altman, who is the founder of OpenAI, he's been banging the AI is coming for your job drum for more than a decade now. In 2015, he pointed out, my job is to help people destroy jobs. Something he lamented at the time, but decided he'd do anyway.
One of the things that I struggle with, like getting out of the bed every morning, is that like my job is to help people destroy jobs. The job destruction that we're going to see by software in the next couple of decades, I don't think anyone's prepared for, and you can't talk about it.
And in 2023, Altman said in an interview, a lot of people working on AI pretend that it's only going to be good. It's only going to be a supplement. No one is ever going to be replaced. Jobs are definitely going to go away, full stop. Interestingly, this month, he said, I don't think we're going to have the kind of jobs apocalypse that some of the companies in our space advocate or talk about. I'm delighted to be wrong about this. On white-collar jobs in 2021 through 2024, he said, AI will probably replace most of the jobs people do today. Entire job categories will be totally gone. In May, this month, 2 years later, he said, I thought there would be more impact on entry-level white-collar jobs being eliminated by now than has actually happened. This is an area where my intuitions were just off. What I find uncomfortable is the bouncing backwards and forwards. And I don't really know what is true, because a couple of years ago, you were telling us all the jobs are going to go away. You said categorically. Mm-hmm. You literally said full stop. And now he's saying they're not going away. And I just don't, when someone's like changing form factor, it's hard to understand why they're doing it. And I think my suspicion is back then, the incentive was to get people to take AI seriously. Mm-hmm. Congratulations, we took it seriously. We took it so seriously, in fact, that it's now a problem. It's a problem for these companies because people are now booing at commencement speeches. They're attacking data centers. They're going to elect people that are theoretically anti-AI. And now there's this inversion where like, no, it's going to be fine. I don't know.
You're spot on. First of all, I mean, Sam's entire existence, if you ask me, starting with open AI that's supposed to save the world by creating a safe AI, then making it a commercial enterprise that's worth billions, and backstabbing a few people in the process. And I have him on Chasing Utopia saying, I quote, this is exactly the words he said. You can find it online.
Chasing Utopia is your documentary.
Yes. So he basically says, well, I don't suspect that, I suspect that AI is likely going to end humanity, but we're going to create a lot of interesting companies in the process, right? I mean, those kinds of statements are honestly not the statements of someone who's not decided. It's just the statements of someone who's being taught more and more by his PR agency or PR manager to say things as per a script, right? And the script, as you rightly said, had an objective and a target either way. And Sam Altman, in one of my works, I used to say the Altman is a brand. It's not a name. Okay. If it wasn't for Sam Altman specifically, there would have been another, Silicon Valley disruptor that would have done the same. I don't blame him for beating the market for it. The interesting challenge here is that who do we believe anymore? Who do we believe in technology? Who do we believe in politics? Who do we believe in the middle of a war? And I will tell you, interestingly, I started to change my mindset in terms of believing those who put their actions where their words are. So Anthropic coming out and saying, I'm not going to allow my model to be used for human targeting and surveillance, right? That's someone that's losing a $500 million deal because they stand by their ethics. The next week or the next, couple of weeks, OpenAI takes the contract. That's someone that's basically telling you it's good money, right? And I have to say, you have to start observing who's actually behaving in a way that is making AI work for humanity and who is behaving in a way that is making AI work for their share values.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.